Proud to present to you the great, the grand Catherine Coulson, as we all know as the Log Lady of Twin Peaks, and as so much more. So please give her a warm welcome. We are first going to ask her some questions about her career, and afterwards there's still time for a Q&A. So fans, prepare your very interesting questions for her.
Okay. First of all, welcome.
Thank you.
So there are a lot of Twin Peaks fans here, and you can see there's already a second generation who are also huge fans, and there's a third generation maybe preparing yourself for the first encounter in the Black Lodge. Did you ever actually think this all would happen when you saw the first pilot? What were your first reactions?
We had no idea this would happen. We just did this show that David Lynch had been dreaming about for years and years, and he called to say, you know, I have a pilot for the American Broadcasting Corporation. Do you want to be the log girl? And I said, you know, I think she's not a girl at this point anymore. And so we called her the Log Lady, and we did this show, and we had no idea that it would capture people's imaginations. And little did we know that it would be, 23 years later, that people would be coming to, in Antwerp, to a beautiful convention to talk about the log. It's really a great gift. So we had no idea it would last so long at all. Not at all. But I'm thrilled that it did.
And what do you think is the secret of this success, of this timelessness of Twin Peaks?
You probably know more than I, but I have a feeling it's because we had never seen television like this before for the first generation. For the second generation, it's character-driven. It's a little bit like Game of Thrones is character-driven. You know, it's not to compare them, but there's something about the people, and we all know people like that in Twin Peaks. I always said it was about the underbelly of a small town, the stuff that everybody knows but nobody talks about. And I think that might be something we all have in common. Something that we all know, but maybe only the owls know or the trees know. And somehow that has become something magical for all of us. And also, there were some very pretty girls in it. And you know, some odd characters, maybe a little odd, not too odd. But just people that we kind of resonate with and know. That's what I think.
Could you tell us something more about how the Log Lady got created and how that happened? And, yeah.
When I was a very young woman, I was doing a movie with David Lynch called Eraserhead. Do you know that film? And we were film students, and I was cast in the film as the nurse who gives Henry and Mary their baby at the hospital. But by the time we went to shoot that scene, we were really out of money, and I said, oh, I don't think it's necessary. Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't do it now. But anyway, as we were working on the movie, I got a chance to do a lot of other things on the film, including some camera operating and lighting and so forth. And late at night, we would shoot all night, late in these gardeners' cottages. It was the only time it was quiet. And David would see me with my glasses on and little plaid skirts. And he said, you know, someday I want a girl with a log. And because he always liked wood. And his father was a research botanist for the United States Forest Service, so he knew wood. And he was very fond of the ponderosa pine. And I don't know if you've seen Eraserhead, but there's a scene where we make pencil erasers out of Henry's head. And they're coming, little pencils are coming down the line. And I'm back there kind of moving the pencils along. I probably shouldn't be telling you that, but don't tell anyone. Anyway, David said, I think that I'm going to do this series, a television series someday. And that's before people really aspire to do TV. He said, I'm going to call it, I'll test my log with every branch of knowledge. And you're going to take a ponderosa pine log around to different experts and ask their opinion. And then we're going to learn about the wood, and we're also going to learn about the expert. So, for example, I would take the log to a dentist, and the dentist would clip one of those little towels around its neck or its trunk, and probe the rings of the log with one of those little tools. And we would learn about dentistry and about the log. So that was his idea. We would do a different episode every week. And then it kind of grew into this town. And then it grew into this secret, this special agent. And then he just decided to put the log lady then into the television show. And we didn't tell the network that I was going to be in it. He just flew me up to the location because he was afraid they wouldn't understand if he said the log lady. So that's really how it started. And then because, I think it's really because of the wood. People liked the log, and we just kept putting her in more of the show. Not a lot, not too much. We didn't want to wear people out. But just to have a little bit of learning about the wood, and the log talked to me, as you might know, and I heard it. And so that's kind of how it started. And then people liked the idea, I think, of the wood. And I personally now know a great deal about ponderosa pine.
And do you still have your sidekick, your actor companion?
At the last episode, David said, Catherine, I think you should have the log. You have to keep it in a safe place. So yes, I do possess the log, but I can't tell you where it is. It's in a secure, undisclosed location with the humidifier going at all times because it has dried out a lot. When I first got the log, it was oozing sap, and it was so heavy that on the little baseball cards that we made, and we could write our own. Mine said for the log lady, her greatest strengths, I said my forearms, because it was really heavy. Now it's quite light. It's dried out a bit more than I would have liked, but so have I. So it's actually in a very safe place, and I would like to have brought it with me for this, especially to be in Belgium. I think the log needs to be here with so many beautiful woods. But the American government is very fussy about taking anything on a plane that can be used as a bludgeon. And although I found that very insulting, the log would never hurt anyone. They didn't believe me. So, and I couldn't check it because you know how often they lose your luggage? It would be terrible. So I left the log back in its secure, undisclosed location. I brought some little twigs, however, and I have some down on the table, the signing table, if you want to come by and get a little twig afterwards. And we actually took some from the woods around here. So that's really why the log has to stay where it is. But I do have the log. I don't think I really possess the log. I think the log possesses me.
Okay, you already talked about Eraserhead, but can you tell us how your work relation with David Lynch started?
I taught David Lynch about acting. He was a fellow at the American Film Institute where he signed on as a director in the very beginning of this organization that's now quite well known for preservation of film and for educating young filmmakers. And David was a bit of an odd one. He always wore 3 ties, for one. He had like different lucky ties. And he wore a Panama hat that gradually, one of those straw hats that gradually got more and more holes in it. And he came to one class that I was teaching to the directing fellows about acting, so that they would know what it was like to work with actors, because they had to act themselves. I was in a theater company, and we were all hired by the American Film Institute to teach these young directors. And David came to one class. He liked it very much, but it was too early in the morning, because he likes to sleep in because he works at night. So, but he did tell me, and the man I was married to at the time, who played Eraserhead, Jack Nance, he asked us if we would come and talk to him about his movie. And at the time it was called Garden Bach. And he didn't like the script very much, so he changed it after he met Jack and decided to make Eraserhead around the central character of Henry. And he asked me to play the nurse, and then we went to work on building the sets. We all did everything. And I actually did Jack's hair, you know, that famous hair that sticks up? And we used to joke about how someday maybe some people would wear their hair like that. And they do. I've seen some here today. And it actually ended the marriage, my having to keep his hair like that for 4 years. The back combing did him in. But it was really because of Eraserhead and working on behind the scenes that all the rest of it happened. And that's really how it happened. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. He knew I was an actor, and I was really lucky. And he's still my friend, David Lynch. He's in Paris right now, and he sends his very best regards to everyone. He's printing lithographs. And I said, do you have anything special that you want to share with your fans? And he said, yes, I love the smell of printer's ink. That was his quote.
Thank you. As you already mentioned, Eraserhead had a very long, quite difficult production process. You actually worked during the day as a waitress and filmed during the night. And in David Lynch's own words, you were a hero. Catherine kept the candle burning. And I was just wondering, how come you were so driven, so passionate about this production, this director? Did you believe in David Lynch from the start?
David Lynch is one of the kindest human beings you'll ever meet. He's just a lovely soul. He and I started meditating together in 1973 when we were really children. I mean, I was only 12, but no. But we formed a special bond through a transcendental meditation, which now he has a foundation called the David Lynch Foundation, which helps pay for people with PTSD, women who suffered abuse, homeless people, veterans, and it's a huge worldwide foundation now to help people learn to meditate and calm their spirit. So I think we just connected on some level that made me want to work really hard for him. Another woman, Doreen Small, who was the production manager, and I used to kid that we were handmaidens to genius. But I think we actually were. And in those days it wasn't too bad to be a handmaiden. As long as you, and also we all got paid the same amount of money. We always got paid, even though we were out of money. Even though sometimes I would use my waitress tips to buy a roll of Tri-X film for the camera, we all got $25 a week. And no matter what you did, Jack Nance got it, I got it, and then gradually we really ran out of money. We all got $12.50 a week. But he still paid us all. So there was something very fair about him, and very egalitarian. We all did everything. And also he ate egg salad sandwiches every day. And I learned how to make a really good egg salad sandwich. I think that's a lot of the success of my career. It was based on that. And French fries. Cretes. He would love Belgium.
So then you released Eraserhead, and also with Final Walk With Me, when it released in the cinemas, the critics weren't always very enthusiastic. But then there was now still a huge following. There's a cult following. There are even Twin Peaks festivals where people come together and talk about Twin Peaks and perform Twin Peaks scenes. What does that do to you to be part of that?
I'm very pleased that the spirit of Twin Peaks, which I think is really a spirit that good triumphs over all, despite, some of the things that happened in the film and in the show. I mean, we all know that some people came to a bad end, but basically I think it's about people's best selves as opposed to their worst selves, and I think maybe that has something to do with it. I think that the critics don't always get David's work, and then once the film has come out and been around for a while and another generation comes along, that people start to recognize the value of the work and that there's some common humanity that we all share that's present in the work. So I think it grows. I mean, I just did a festival, Twin Peaks Festival every year in like October at the Riverside Studios, and the people who come to that are pretty much, young people like yourselves, and they all are huge fans of the movie, A Fire Walk with Me, and there was just a big screening at the University of Southern California, and they had a 10-week panel discussion with all the actors and the people who made the show, and they showed all the episodes. This was very academic. And Fire Walk with Me drew hundreds and hundreds of people. And I think it's because there's, again, something in that human behavior that we all recognize, even if we don't like it about ourselves. There might be something that we learn about ourselves in watching the work. So it's just grown over the years. I also think David has a timeless quality in the look that he has. The look of his work is kind of 1950s, but it could also be 1990s. It could also be 2020. There's something timeless there that we resonate with. You'll have to tell me. That's what I think.
Thank you. As you already told us, you did everything. You worked also as a camera assistant, so you worked in front of the camera as an actress, but also behind the camera, in front of the screens, but also behind the screens. And we would love to know which world do you prefer, which job, which task?
I really love working on a film crew because of the community that's built around making a movie. I like being part of the egg salad making as well as keeping things in focus, as well as operating the big camera. And actually I was just telling Roman, my wonderful assistant today, about working with John Cassavetes, because Cassavetes was in the American Film Institute as a visiting artist, and he asked me to come and work on his movie, The Killing of a Chinese Bookie, and opening night, because he knew that I could shoot film with a very heavy camera, because I've always been really strong. So he actually called me the Amazon. I think it was a compliment. Anyway, I think that I love being part of the community, and that's what film crews are all about. You get to really participate equally with each other. However, I started off as a very young child as an actor. My grandmother was an actor in Hungary. My mother was in vaudeville as a dancer and an actor. And so I always knew I would go back to acting. And I continued to do theater the whole time I was working in camera work. Although I was one of the first women in the International Camera Union in the United States. And I think that as I became more well-known because of the wood, I became less and less able to do the camera work because you have to kind of be anonymous when you do that. And people started recognizing me and screaming, and it just didn't work. So I really started acting more and more. So So now I have to say I miss sometimes being on a movie crew, but when I do a movie as an actor, or I work in the theater mostly, at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival in Ashland, Oregon. It's right above California, and it's it's the largest repertory theater in the United States, and we do wonderful Shakespeare as well as new plays and world classics. And I really love the audience, and I love acting, and I like hearing applause. That's fun. And I love doing television and film as well as an actor. But I always feel like I have a very good rapport with the crew because I know that I've been there. And when they put on a new lens, I know exactly where they are on me. And I know exactly how to not bob and weave so that I stay in focus. So I would say the melding of both worlds appeals to me. But now I mostly get to act, and I like it. And as I mature, there are more fun roles, you know, except not as much kissing, unfortunately. We have to write some parts for older women who can still kiss. I think that's important.
I think a question we're all asking ourselves is, how does the future look between the cooperation between you and Mr. Lynch? Is there something happening? Is there a secret reunion with the cast and crew of Twin Peaks that we're not invited to, and something's going to happen?
If there's a reunion of the cast and crew and David Lynch of Twin Peaks, you will be invited. David says sometimes there are still more stories to be told, but he doesn't have any immediate plans to tell them. He is really interested in painting right now and doing this, the lithographs in Paris in this 150-year-old studio that he loves. And he and his wife just had a baby a year ago, Lulu. So he says when he gets the right spark, he'll do another film, another project. He loves Twin Peaks. He loves the people who love Twin Peaks. I don't know that he's going to revisit it while we're all still able to think. but he really does like this world and these people. So I wouldn't say that it's dead in the water, as we say in America, but I think that there's always a chance that we'll revisit that world. But if we do, we'll let you know. Just keep looking at Facebook. Recently, there was a rumor around that there was going to be a new episode that we were all going to get back together. And Jennifer Lynch, David's daughter, wrote on Facebook, no, this is not going to happen. Although about 2 years ago, we did an episode of an American television show called Psych. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's two detectives, and they did an episode called Dual Spires. Get it? And many of us came back and played ourselves older or different roles. So you can get that probably on downloaded. It's a television show like the guy's Psychic, so it's Psych spelled that way, and Dual Spires. And I played, they weren't allowed to use our real Twin Peaks names, so I was like the Woods woman. And I had a grandchild. Okay, I'll say no more.
Speaking of the future of the Log Lady or the Woods Woman, the Woods Woman has a grandchild, but do you have an idea of how Twin Peaks would have gone further, or what would have happened with the Log Lady after the second season?
I think how the Log Lady, had the show going on after the second season, she probably would have refused to go out in public. Because, you know, she was kind of grumpy and didn't really like crowds. That's why the Log Lady herself doesn't make personal appearances. Only I, Catherine, can come and bring you a little piece of the log. But I'm not sure I'd even let myself go there. It's possible she'd find another marriage, because, you know, her husband died in a fire. And he was a woodsman, and Hence the reason her fireplace is boarded up in all of those introductions to the show. So I'm not sure. I would say she'd probably find another good man and stay in her cabin in the afternoons. That's all I can say.
Thank you. Maybe as a final question, before we hand over the mic to the audience, what is your most memorable David Lynch moment of working with him, of his films?
On all the films? Oh gee, there's so many. I think one of my most memorable moments was on Eraserhead. I will just say on Twin Peaks, he designed this little tattoo for the back of my leg when I got abducted by aliens. I don't know if you remember this, but it was in season 2, and Major Briggs and I think, were abducted by aliens very briefly. And David drew this tattoo on my leg and told me not to wash it because we didn't know how long it would take to shoot. And I went to a Twin Peaks Fan Festival, which there is one every year in Washington where we shot the show. And a man had it tattooed on his neck. That was a really amazing moment. But my favorite David Lynch moment was probably in Eraserhead, late at night, maybe 3 in the morning, and he said, "Kath, we have to fill this drawer with vanilla pudding and a layer of peas, little green peas. And the whole drawer needs to be filled. Do you know how much pudding we need?" Now, I was never good at math. I knew it had to do with cubic something, you know, and so, but there were no stores open. And so Doreen, this same woman who we kiddingly used to say we were handmaidens to genius, we went out driving in David's old Volkswagen, which he used, by the way. We used to stop shooting Eraserhead in the middle of the night so he could go and deliver the Wall Street Journal. And he had this Volkswagen, he would throw the papers out the window. And he did his route that was supposed to take 8 hours. He did it in an hour and a half. It was crazy. And actually, he made a tape recording for me once of his route, which I must find. "Okay, Kath, turn left here at the Orange House," because I did it for him once when he went on vacation. But anyway, we had to find out how many boxes of vanilla pudding to buy to fill a drawer, a dresser drawer. And in this drawer was this layer of peas. And then Henry took the vaporizer for the baby out of it. Is it in the movie? I don't remember if it's actually in the, I think it might be in Eraserhead, where he capped this thing to make the baby breathe better. The baby got sick, and the baby is okay. And they took the vaporizer up out of this drawer full of vanilla pudding and peas. And I consider it one of my professional triumphs that we bought just the right amount of vanilla pudding and filled the drawer. So I think that would be one of my favorite David Lynch moments. You've asked such good questions. Thank you.
Does somebody else has a question? You can shout or you can have the mic.
No, it's okay. What was it to suddenly become a celebrity as the Bond lady?
What was it like to suddenly become one? I had to go out of the house dressed better. I mean, what was really weird is the very first time the cast is asked to go to what they call the affiliate conventions. It's this big fancy hotel in Beverly Hills, California, and you're supposed to show up, and the people who buy the time for the television stations all over the United States come to it. And so they introduce all the new shows. And we were all asked to come, but it was before the show was really big, so we just drove our own cars. And my husband and I drove our old Volvo, and we drove it to the Beverly Hills Hotel, and we pulled up in front, and all of a sudden all these flash bulbs went off. And I was like, what's happening? And my husband said, I think this might be for you. And I thought, oh, we should have washed the car. I mean, like, we didn't even get it, you know? And then we got out of the car, and people were yelling, Catherine, Catherine, and giving me these little cards to sign, and I would say, you know, what name would you like on? And they go, no name, just your name. Then I found out that they were selling them. I mean, it was really kind of an amazing phenomenon. I had no idea this would happen. The only people who really were, you know, already really famous were like Richard Beamer, Russ Tamblyn, Piper Laurie. Everybody else was relatively unknown. Even though I'd been working as an actor all my life, I suddenly became a cult figure. So I had to shampoo my hair before I left the house every day. And, you know, not wear my bedroom slippers to the grocery store, things like that. I just kind of learned, you know, how to present a little better and also keep the car clean. And that was pretty much it. And for a while there, you know, we got nice seats in restaurants. I mean, it was fun. It was also good to be able to do stuff for other people. I planted a lot of trees for people with AIDS in the 80s. I got to learn a lot about ancient forests and speak on behalf of stands of Douglas fir and ponderosa pine and why we shouldn't cut down the ancient forests. So I feel like the celebrity brought a little bit of good deeds meets both. You know, we had a chance to do good work as a result of this sort of weird celebrityhood. But the best part is I got to come here to Antwerp and sign little logs. I mean, it's wonderful. I meet great people. So thank you for hosting me.
We all know the stories about the first season. When people saw Twin Peaks first season, they would gather around the water coolers and talk about the show, all the positive things. But how did corporate and sometimes Puritan America react to themes like at the end of season 2 about rape, incest, murder, drug abuse? How did they react about those themes, and maybe that led to the demise of the season 2?
How did corporate America react to what happened at the end of season 2? They canceled the show. I think you're right. I think it went a little too far. Now, it probably wouldn't be. But then, also it lost the water cooler effect of people coming to work and talking about it the next day because the network was so happy that it was doing so well. David only wanted to do a mini-series. He wanted to do 8 or 10 episodes at the most. Then because it was doing so well, he got convinced to do it. But he went off to do Wild at Heart. So he kind of left it in the hands of the other producers and writers. He said he feels bad about that, you know, that he didn't stay with it longer. And they moved it to Saturday night so that by the time people got to the water cooler on Monday, it wasn't the first topic on their minds. And the new writers and producers brought in new characters that didn't always have a thread of storytelling. And I think every genre depends on good storytelling. From the wonderful graphic novels that we've seen here today, the comic books. Somebody said graphic novel was a fancy word for comic books, but it's true that in every genre, theater, film, television, you have to be able to tell a story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, where the characters change. All those principles of Greek drama that we all study, I think, are true. So Twin Peaks stopped doing that to some extent. And then, yeah, there was a little rape and murder and all that too. But I think really it's about storytelling. And so when the stories stopped having David Lynch's imagination only, and they started to shift a little, I think it's when they lost interest. Although I just watched season 2 at this academic conference, and I thought, there were some very interesting subplots. They just didn't always pay off. I think that's what happened.
What projects are you working on now, or do you have lined up?
Okay, thank you. I work right now at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and on Tuesday I'm going to a rehearsal of Midsummer Night's Dream and a performance of Taming of the Shrew, and we also do other plays other than Shakespeare. So that's my main thing right now. I just finished a film called Redwood Highway, which will be released in the fall with Shirley Knight. Do you know her? A wonderful, now older actor who was one of Tennessee Williams' favorite actresses, and a man named Tom Skerritt. And it's a really interesting film about older Americans escaping their retirement home. And I play her ornery sidekick. And it's quite a fun film, so that will be out. I've done, there's a show called Portlandia. Do you get that? I just did an episode of that. So I'm really hoping that as long as I can remember lines, I'll keep working, because I really love it. And I love live audiences, and I love things like this. So that's pretty much it. And maybe someday I will be a grandmother in real life. But that's what I get to do, is work with people. And, you know, I like work with, I'm doing a lot of work with people who are at the end of their lives, hospice work. And I enjoy that, what I'm learning from people who are about to leave this planet. I'm learning a lot from them, too. So that's one of my little sidelines. Thank you for asking.
You've worked in front of the camera and behind the camera. And so I was wondering, so you understand the hardships of working on movies. So I was wondering if David ever tested your patience.
The only thing David tested was my lack of sleep, because I worked during the day, first as a waitress, and then I ran this program at the American Film Institute called the Directing Workshop for Women, which gave women a chance to direct, which has always been something I care a lot about. And at night we shot Eraserhead, and also wrapped up his Wall Street journals with rubber bands so that he could throw them out the window. And I just didn't get enough sleep. So that was the only test. I've never seen David lose his temper, ever. And I think it's partly because he's been meditating since his early 20s. He's very even. He can get a little impatient, but I don't think he ever got impatient with me, or if he did, I blocked it. I don't remember. But no, I think we grew up together, is what happened. And the meditation thing has really helped us stay fairly even over the years. Anything else anybody wants to know? Well, yes. My favorite characters? Well, I have to say the log. I mean, really, I think the log has it all together. You know, calm, cool, collected, a little wooden. Really, I think I was always very fond of Laura Palmer. And, you know, she came back as her cousin. But I really liked Cheryl Lee, the person. And she and I are still friends. I always, I kind of hate to say it's sort of like a mother choosing her favorite child. I don't think I can say. But, overall, I think he created a lot of very intriguing characters. And Kyle MacLachlan, has gone on to do a lot of work in film and television. And he and I both worked at the same theater. He played Romeo when he was a lot younger. And then he did the movie of Hamlet, where he played Laertes, I think. And so he's really a theater guy. And now he produces Portlandia, this show that I just did, and plays the mayor of that show. Does anybody else want to know anything? Yes, go ahead. If I could choose another role? Oh, gee, that's a great question. I don't know. I probably have to marry one of those really cute older men and do some more kissing. No, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. That's a good. I'll have to think about that one. One more question? Anybody? Yes. Do I always understand David's films? No, I don't. I don't think you're supposed to. I think on some level there's some sort of visceral experience that you have in a David Lynch film where you just go in and let yourself go, which is kind of his idea. He says he goes fishing for ideas. He'll pull out one and then he just sees where it goes. But he doesn't like to talk about why he did something. He never will. And I mean, the only thing we ever really talked about is the story of the character before the character came into the scene. And he's very good at helping you develop a character. You know, we made up the story of the log lady's husband and the fear of fire and all of that. Like she couldn't stand to have anybody smoke around her. Not because she disapproved of smoking, but because of the chance of fire, that kind of thing. But really, overall, he doesn't like to talk about it. And so I just never asked. So I don't really think, I think he knows on some intuitive level. And that's why I think part of the appeal is that we all can intuit whatever we want to from his work and make it our own. Give ourselves the story that we want to hear. And maybe that's the universal appeal and why it's lasted so long. Well, I want to just say thank you to both of you for having me here. This was really fascinating. Good questions. Nice to see you all. We're going to go back down and sign a few more pictures if you want to come by and get a log. But it's really been great to be here. And I really love being in this beautiful country. What a lovely place to be. So thank you for hosting me.